Brett Favre the greatest Green Bay Packer of all time? That is the question here on Football Nation. This is Cold Hard Football Facts. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. He's Kerry Byrne of Cold Hard Football Facts. Is he the greatest Packer of all time?
Well, Ron Wolf, the former Packers GM, said so, and I think it's kind of interesting. He's obviously a divisive character. People love him or hate him, it seems, and put up phenomenal numbers. The great all-time NFL great Iron Man, all-time leader in every kind of passing category. But I don't know, Butch. I have a hard time putting him on the very short list of the best Packers.
Well, before we get to your Cold Hard Football numbers that back up what your opinion is, let's talk about your opinion. Let's paint a picture about Brett Favre. He is the most touchdowns and most interceptions by any quarterback. Doesn't that really tell the story that he could be as good as any quarterback out there, but he could also be as bad as any quarterback?
And some of that is a function of throwing the ball more often and playing more games than any other quarterback. But to lead in touchdowns, we understand. To lead in interceptions is kind of a little interesting in this day and age where guys aren't picked off as much. And I think what we find is that he was either really good or sometimes really bad. And he had a long history of kind of not always producing like an elite quarterback in key situations.
So, Kerry, when you think of the Packers, they're one of the most storied teams, if not the most storied team in the history of football.
Absolutely.
Vince Lombardi and everything else. They're comparable to the Celtics in basketball, the Yankees in baseball, and the Montreal Canadiens when it comes to hockey. And if I look at those three teams, if I had to pick the best of each, Russell was the Celtic, Ruth was the Yankee, and Rocket Richard arguably was the Canadian. So Brett Favre is the greatest Packer. Can a guy be the greatest Packer, a storied team like that, if he didn't finish his career and all the other things that go along with it?
Well, that's obviously part of it. You know, Bill Russell was obviously with the Celtics his whole career, I believe. Rocket Richard was with the Canadiens his whole career. Ruth, obviously, the later and greatest years of his career were with the Yankees. In the case of Favre, let's just pretend for the sake of argument he only played with the Packers. My concern is this is such a storied franchise. You have, so many Hall of Famers, so many great players at different positions. I don't even know if he's the greatest quarterback in Packers history. Seriously, let alone the greatest Packer, period. And there's a number of reasons why. Namely, those colossal gaffes and big games year after year after year, Butch, that somehow got forgotten in the kind of the fanaticism around Brett Favre and, throughout his career, especially later in the career, about him being the greatest this and greatest that. He can add a lot of really big-time, epic bad moments in Packers history, especially in the playoffs.
All right, let's go to the numbers. The epic bad numbers in the playoffs, and also the best quarterback of all time.
Well, let's look at some of his, some of those famous games. In 2001, he threw 6 picks against the Rams in the playoffs, cost the Packers a shot at the NFC title. Tied for the most interceptions in a single playoff game in NFL history with Norm Van Brocklin, also Hall of Famer, but he did it in 1955. You have to go back that far to find another guy with 6 picks in a playoff game. The first home loss in Packers suffered in history to the 9-6-1 Falcons with Michael Vick in the 2002 playoffs had a 55 passer rating. Go to the 2003 playoffs. Remember the famous first play of overtime for the Packers offense? He throws a pick right into the arms of Brian Dawkins. Cost the Packers a victory in that game. 2004, 4 picks and a 55.4 rating, and home loss, another home loss to the 8-8 Vikings. I believe the 8-8 Vikings, the first 8-8 team to win a playoff game. Conversely, Brett Favre, the first quarterback to lose a playoff game to an 8-8 team. 2007, the Packers had a great team hosting the Giants in that NFC title game. Frigid game, came up empty when it counted most. 4 of 10, 32 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks in the fourth quarter in overtime. The Giants go on to kick the game-winning field goal in overtime, go on to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Those are 5 seasons right there where the Packers had legit shots at the Super Bowl, and he cost that team victory in every single game.
Well, and then, of course, when he was a Viking, he lost to the Saints with that classic mistake.
You knew that was coming. After probably the greatest regular season of his career, you just kind of knew it was coming. So, I don't know, a guy who kind of has that track record, obviously a tremendous player, the greatest Iron Man in NFL history, first ballot Hall of Fame, and not taking any of that away from him, but to call him the greatest Packer in history, I don't see how you go there.
Well, you name 5 other Packers that you think arguably are 6 that are better than him. Yep. And you have Don Hudson, Forrest Gregg, Reggie White, Herb Adderley and Willie Wood, and Bart Starr.
Yeah, we listed 5 and actually kind of 6. Don Hudson, the most dominant receiver of all time. When NFL Films, NFL Network did their thing on the 10 greatest Packers of all time, which I was a part of. I was actually quite involved in that program. And it's great to be a part of, listing the greatest Packers of all time. Don Hudson was number 1 on their list as well. An old-time player, but truly dominant. Forrest Gregg, Vince Lombardi said Forrest Gregg was the best football player he's ever seen. Wow. That's good enough for me, okay? Yeah. Reggie White, does anyone think that we all kind of believe he was the most dominant defender of our lifetime, spent much of his career, most of it, with the Packers. Herb Adderley and Willie Wood I put together, the 2 great Hall of Fame defensive backs from those championship teams. The Packers won because Bart Starr was the most effective quarterback in big game quarterback in history, just about. And they're the best pass defense year after year in history. And I credit Willie Wood and Herb Adderley for being kind of forgotten cogs of the greatest dynasty in history. So we put them together. And then Bart Starr was clearly a better big game quarterback than Brett Favre. Not even a
Well, let's get to the numbers. Favre played in 2 Super Bowls.
Yep.
He won one and lost one. He beat the Patriots and he lost to John Elway and the Broncos. But when you look at the playoff numbers, Favre has played many more games, but he's got 44 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. But you make the case that Bart Starr and Aaron Rodgers are clearly better playoff quarterbacks.
They've clearly, obviously, in much fewer attempts. Actually, the number of attempts and yards and numbers right now for Bart Starr's career and Aaron Rodgers' career in the postseason, they're pretty much even. It's, even look at 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions for Bart Starr, 15 and 4 for Aaron Rodgers. Why Bart Starr was easily the best big game assassin in history. Just look at his numbers: 104.8 passer rating, which stood as a postseason record for 40, almost over 40 years until Aaron Rodgers just broke that mark. But he performed well in big games year after year after year, through 3 picks in 10 postseason games. He always came through in the clutch, and people say he didn't pass the ball a lot. No, he didn't. But when he did, he was deadly effective and a secret weapon. And I don't know how anyone puts Brett Favre in the discussion with Bart Starr as a big game quarterback.
Ron Wolf says that Brett Favre is the greatest Green Bay Packer of all time. Kerry Byrne, using the cold hard football facts, the numbers that back it up, says no, he is not. This is Football Nation. This is Cold Hard Football Facts.